Some men chase love, others chase control and call it love. Welcome back to Northern Tales, where the fire in our stories burn deeper with every chapter. This is part 2 of Ladi's story, and a new player has entered the scene. Sarki Tanko, the village wrestler. Big voice, bigger ego. A man who made a bet with his friends that he could tame the wildest girl in the village. And now, the courtship begins. Their first meeting wasn't flowers or sweet words. It was Tanko trying to put her in her place, boasting about how a man must be obeyed and how marriage is sweet when the wife is silent. Ladi didn't say much, but that smirk on her face, it was the calm before a storm Tanko didn't see coming. Ladi never dreamed of weddings. She believed she was unloved, as the people in the village have always said. But lately, something in her heart had softened. Not for Tanko, no, not quite, but for her mother, Indo, who had cried too many quiet tears because of her. Ladi still remembered the look on her mother's face that day after the fight at the grinding mill, or the time she dragged her brother by the ear for insulting Tassala in front of guests, or when Betrayal shouted that she was cursed and Indo just stood there, eyes wet, lips trembling. So when Tanko came, loud and proud but willing, something in her stilled. For once, there was no forcing, no threats. He asked for her hand, himself, and though he was arrogant, and though the air around him smelled of sweat and self-importance, there was something different this time. He was the only one who didn't flinch at her height. He stood taller, just barely, and broader too, his restless chest filling his kaftan like it had its own story to tell. He had been married before, had a son too. No one knew exactly why the wife left, but Tanko had an answer for that, as he did for everything. My masculinity was too much for her, he said with a grin. She said I was like thunder in her house. He laughed like it was a compliment, like breaking a woman's spirit was a badge of honor. Ladi didn't laugh, but she didn't run either, because deep down, beneath the fire and the pride, she heard the whispers. You're too tall. You're too loud. You'll never find a husband. And now, here was a man who wasn't afraid to be seen beside her. That mattered more than she wanted to admit. And maybe peace would finally come to the house. Maybe her father would stop looking at her like a burden. Maybe Indo would finally sleep without sighing. So Ladi didn't say yes. Not yet. But she stopped saying no. The courtship began like everything else in Ladi's life, with the neem tree as a witness. Tanko came almost every evening, just after sunset. He'd arrive in his usual swagger, arms swinging wide, his slippers slapping loudly against the ground as if to announce the champion is here. Ladi would be cold outside. She'd sit quietly beside him on the wooden bench in front of her father's house. Not too close, not too far. And then Tanko would talk about himself every single time. He talked about his wrestling days, how no man in Sokoto, Zamfara, or even Niger Republic could pin him down. He mimicked matches with loud grunts and dramatic hand movements, slapping his own chest like a drum. He told stories of his muscles, his fame, his power. Even Malam Abubakar, that big fool from Gusau, couldn't hold me for 3 seconds, he boasted one evening, flexing his arm. They still talk about that fight like it was a festival. Sometimes Ladi tried to respond. A small question, a smile, a word. But Tanko didn't like interruptions. Let me finish, he would snap. Or worse, it's not your place to argue. Just listen. He went on to speak of his first marriage, how his wife trembled when she heard his footsteps. She knew she married a man, not a boy, not someone soft, he would say proudly. I'm not the type you command, I command. He looked at Ladi as if that should impress her, as if fear was the highest form of love. Ladi sat still, her hands folded in her lap, her mouth quiet, her heart louder, because she knew this was not the story she wanted for herself. But still, she endured it because of her mother, Indo. Because every time her mother saw Tanko in the compound, a small tired smile would return to her face. Because the whispering had stopped. Because her father for once looked relieved when her name was mentioned. So Ladi told herself, let me be good, just this once. Let me be the daughter who dries the tears of her parents. Let me be obedient for once so my mother can breathe. So she swallowed her voice, one evening at a time. And Tanko kept talking. Something in Ladi changed. The villagers noticed it first. She wasn't shouting anymore. She didn't fight in the market. She didn't drag anyone by the shirt or storm into conversations like thunder. She walked slower, spoke less, smiled only when necessary. Some said it was Tanko. Ah, the wrestler has tamed her, they whispered. She's finally behaving like a woman. Maybe marriage is what she needed all along. But Ladi knew that sometimes silence isn't peace, it's survival. Maybe she was quieter. Maybe she didn't fight. Or maybe the community feared her more now that she belonged to Tanko. He was a man people avoided. And now, by extension, they avoided her too. So the fight stopped. The noise faded, but the fire didn't go out. It simply moved to her books, her one constant, her only refuge. That term, Ladi spent even more time in the classroom, long after others had gone home. And it was there she met Miss Tochi, the new NYSC geography teacher, with short natural hair, thick glasses, and a calmness that filled the air like perfume. From the very first lesson, Miss Tochi noticed something in Ladi, the way she leaned forward when she explained tectonic plates, the way she scribbled furiously during lessons, the way her eyes lit up at the word map like it was a key to a locked door. One afternoon after class, Miss Tochi called her aside. You love learning, she said simply. Ladi looked down, embarrassed. Yes, ma. Miss Tochi smiled. Good, then let's feed that love. From that day on, the two became quiet friends. Not the type who giggled and shared snacks, the type who talked about scholarships, essay competitions, and university forms. The type who passed books on their desks and wrote names of women who had done big things in other places. Miss Tochi never asked about Tanko. She never needed to, because she saw something others missed, that Ladi's fire hadn't died, it had only been redirected. Into knowledge, into dreams. Life moved in quiet circles. Tanko came, Ladi sat, he talked, she listened. Sometimes she wondered if this was what courtship meant, waiting in silence while a man rehearsed his greatness. But she endured it for her mother, for peace, for a fragile idea of duty. Until the day it all cracked. It was a few days before Eid. The air was thick with the scent of roasted granuts and excitement. Girls were measuring wrappers at the tailor shop. Boys were oiling their slippers and practicing dances for the village square. That evening, Tanko arrived as usual, grinning with his white chest puffed like a rooster. He handed Ladi a bundle of naira notes for new clothes and shoes. Then another bundle. For food, he added. I want you to cook a feast on Eid. My friends from Tasha Koka are coming. Big men, important people. Make sure you kill a chicken and fry enough meat. We must honor them. Ladi stared at the money. Something inside her tightened. She handed it back. I'm not your wife yet, she said quietly. You should speak with Baba first. Tanko blinked. Once, twice, and then the smile vanished. What did you say? I said. He cut her off with a scoff. You should be grateful that a man like me even wants to marry you. Do you know how many women will beg for this chance? His voice rose, his arms flailed, his pride pricked. You, with all your trouble, your big mouth, your big body, you think you're doing me a favor. The shouting drew attention. Neighbors peeked out. Children slowed their skipping ropes. And then Barao stepped out of the house. Ladi turned toward him, heart pounding. Finally, she thought. Finally, he will see me. Finally, he will say enough. But instead, Barao turned to Tanko, placed a hand gently on his shoulder and said, You know how women are. Just be patient. Please, forgive her. The words sliced through her. Forgive her? Ladi stood frozen, eyes wide, mouth dry. Everything inside her began to unravel. And then for the first time since she was a child, Ladi cried. Not the quiet tears that slipped down in anger. No, these tears came from the belly, from the years of holding back, from all the unspoken things pressed deep into her chest, from betrayal. She turned and walked back into the house, the money still lying untouched on the ground. That night, she didn't eat, she didn't sleep, she didn't speak, because something inside her had died and something else was just waking up. 3 days passed after Eid. No visits, no arrogant laughter echoing through the compound, no Tanko. For a moment, Ladi allowed herself to breathe. She focused on her schoolwork, bent low beside the flickering glow of a kerosene lantern. Her notebook balanced on one knee, a half-sharpened pencil in her hand. Geography homework. Something about rivers and erosion. The only kind of erosion she understood was the one happening inside her. Then suddenly, a small body burst through the doorway. It was Umar, the 5-year-old son of their neighbor. He nearly knocked over her lantern. Auntie Ladi, he panted. Sarki Tanko is back. He wants to see you. The words felt like dust in her throat. Ladi looked up, eyes narrowing. She stood slowly and scolded the boy, her voice low but firm. Go back outside. Tell him I didn't ask for any favors. I'm not marrying him. Let him go. Umar blinked, confused, and then turned to leave. But before he reached the door, a hand yanked him back. Barao. He looked like a storm held together by skin. Tell him, Barao growled, that she is coming. Then he turned to Ladi. You heard me. Go. Ladi stood her ground, trembling, not from fear, but fury. He doesn't respect me, Baba, she said quietly. He insults me. He shouts at me like I'm his dog. Why should I? Shut up, Ladi. The words landed like a slap. Barao's eyes blazed. Are you not lucky that any man even wants to marry you? With your height, your stubbornness, your mouth. He pointed towards the door. If you make that man walk away, I swear by Allah, I will send you out of this house. Indo tried to speak, a soft, Barao, please. But he turned on her like a whip. You raised her like this. Big for nothing. Both of you. And then he grabbed a piece of firewood. Rough, thick, half burnt at the end. He launched toward Ladi. Go out now and greet him. Let me see you try me today. Ladi didn't move. Not out of defiance, but out of something deeper. Disbelief. The kind that hits when you realize there is no one coming to save you. Not your father, not your mother, not even silence. There was nowhere else for the rage to go. So instead, it pulled in her chest. Thick, hot, heavy. She picked up her notebook, slowly, deliberately, and walked past them, out the door into the darkness. She stepped outside. The night air was still, but her body trembled. Not from cold, from anger. The kind that burns through your limbs when silence feels like a betrayal against your own soul. Ladi clutched a notebook to her chest like a shield. Her fists were tight, her jaw tighter. At the edge of her vision, she could see Barao standing by the doorway, hands on his hips, watching, measuring, waiting. She didn't greet Tanko. She didn't bow. She didn't speak. She just stood. Tanko took it as submission. He began to talk again. "Let me tell you something," he said, voice thick with self-satisfaction. "Once you enter my house, this pride of yours will die small, small. Wallahi, I will teach you." He chuckled. "I only came back because my friends won't stop laughing," he added. "They say I've lost the bet, that you're too wild even for me. Can you imagine? Me, losing to a girl." The words hit like stones. Bet? The notebook slipped from her hand and hit the ground with a soft accusing thud. So that's what she was. Not a bride, not a partner, a wager. She didn't hear the rest of his rant. The world had narrowed. There was only the pounding of blood in her ears, only the tears that now fell, hot, silent, and endless. She didn't wipe them. She let them fall. When Tanko was done, he turned without another word and walked away, his slippers slapping the ground like a final insult. He didn't glance back. Barao, who had witnessed the whole thing, didn't move either. But after a long pause, he turned and walked into the house. No words, no shame, no apology, just silence. And Ladi stood there, alone, humiliated, undone. But beneath the pain, beneath the salt of her tears, something hardened. Not her heart, her resolve. That night, Ladi did not sleep. She lay on her mat, curled up like a question mark, and cried until her chest ached and her throat tasted of salt and silence. By morning, her eyes were so swollen, it looked like she had fought with a honest net. When Indo entered and saw her, she gasped. "Don't go out," her mother whispered, pulling the curtain shut. "The other wives must not see you like this. The neighbors will talk." She brought a wet cloth and dabbed gently at Ladi's face, as if erasing pain were ever that simple. Ladi said nothing. She didn't go to school that day, or the next after that. For a full week, she remained inside. Silent, still, sunken. But inside her head, it never stopped. What am I? Who am I? My mother sees me as a shame. My father, a burden. Tanko, a prize in a game between men. She whispered it again, lips barely moving. What am I? The walls didn't answer. The lantern didn't flicker. Even the compound seemed to hold its breath. During that week, Indo tried, gently, wordlessly, to soothe her. She brought her tea, tucked her in, sat by her side, but never said sorry. Barao, he never mentioned the incident, never knocked on her door, never once asked how she was. After everything he saw, Ladi thought, surely he would at least try to comfort me, maybe even say something, anything to convince me Tanko is still a good choice. But nothing came. And that's when Ladi knew with the kind of certainty that splits stone. There was nothing she could ever do to make herself worthy in her parents' eyes, nothing that would shrink her enough to fit into their small boxes. The quiet girl she had been this past month, the one who endured, obeyed, folded herself into silence, was not her. She was not born for that life, and she definitely was not born for Tanko. She could already see it, the stormy nights, the shouting, the bruises, not just on skin, but on soul, the way she would fight back, the way it would all collapse. The marriage, if it ever happened, wouldn't last. And it wouldn't just destroy her, it would kill the last good thing left inside her. So she decided she was done. Done being anyone's ego boost, done being a bet, done being a doormat in her own life. If fire was what it took to be free, then let her burn. You have been listening to Northern Tales, where fierce girls don't fade, they rise. This was part 2 of Ladi's story, the calm before the storm. She stayed silent to protect her mother. She obeyed to end peace, but silence has a breaking point. And when it breaks, even the ground will remember her name. Subscribe to Northern Tales so you don't miss part 3, where the fire finally roars. Every girl deserves to be seen. Every voice deserves to be heard. We'll see you in part 3.